December 8, 1941, at Waimanalo Beach, Oahu, territory of Hawaii, Ensign Kazuo Sakamaki fought to stay conscious as waves washed over his exhausted body. His waterlogged uniform contained a diary entry confessing his failure to the emperor, a confession that warranted immediate execution by his own command. As a rifle barrel appeared, pointed directly at his head, Sakamaki closed his eyes, prepared for the bullet that would end his shame. Instead, Corporal David Akui of the 298th Infantry spoke words that defied everything the Imperial Japanese military had taught him. "You are safe now. We will get you medical attention." Sakamaki was the first Japanese prisoner of war taken into American custody, a man who fully expected torture and immediate death, just as Japanese propaganda had promised for any soldier foolish enough to surrender to the so-called barbaric Americans. Sakamaki's capture marked the beginning of an extraordinary episode in World War II, the systematic dismantling of Japanese military indoctrination through calculated American humanity. Between 1941 and 1945, approximately 5,000 Japanese soldiers would be held in POW camps on American soil, part of a total of up to 50,000 captured by Western Allied forces. Every single one expected brutality. Everyone was prepared for death. Instead, those sent to the United States encountered hot showers, 3 nourishing meals a day, advanced medical care, and the full protection of the Geneva Convention. This kindness was psychologically devastating, a moral shock they could neither understand nor initially accept. The Imperial Japanese military code was absolute: death before dishonor, victory or destruction, never surrender. Their 1941 military field code contained no instructions for becoming a prisoner, because such an eventuality was considered an absolute impossibility. A true warrior died fighting or committed seppuku. Surrender was a contamination that cursed one's family line for 10,000 generations. The contrast with American military culture was stark. American soldiers were taught their rights as potential POWs under international law. Japanese soldiers were programmed with vivid lies, tales of Americans skinning prisoners alive, using them for medical experiments, or cannibalizing them. The crushing irony was that while Japanese forces were committing documented atrocities like the Bataan Death March, where 27% of Western prisoners would ultimately die, Sakamaki awoke in a clean hospital bed in Hawaii. American doctors treated his injuries, and officers addressed him with military courtesy. The cognitive dissonance was unbearable. He repeatedly begged his captors to allow him to commit suicide, a request they denied with what seemed to him incomprehensible patience. In March 1942, Sakamaki arrived at Camp McCoy, Wisconsin, the largest Japanese POW camp in the U.S., which would eventually hold nearly 3,000 prisoners. His journey across the continent itself was a lesson in American abundance. Instead of a cattle car, he rode a passenger train with cushioned seats, witnessing a vibrant America that contradicted everything the propaganda had claimed. There were no visible signs of total war mobilization. Cities were lit, and civilians went about their lives as if Pearl Harbor had been a distant inconvenience. The American military's policy, despite the atrocities committed against Allied POWs by Japan, was strict adherence to the Geneva Convention. Camp McCoy's commandant, Colonel Harold Rogers, ensured the Japanese prisoners, housed separately from the Germans and Italians, received individual bunks, mattresses, electric lights, hot water, and central heating against the brutal Wisconsin winters. Nothing challenged their indoctrination more directly than the daily meals. Japanese POWs were served 2,800 calories a day, the same as American soldiers, including meat, vegetables, bread, and even rice and soy sauce provided after the administration learned their dietary preferences. In the Japanese military, soldiers regularly starved. Here, prisoners were asked about food preferences, and they witnessed the technologically advanced camp's kitchen and, more disturbingly, the daily waste of discarded food required by regulation to ensure adequate portions. The American abundance itself was a weapon. The camp's respect for their religious beliefs was equally shocking. A Buddhist shrine was established, with incense provided by the YMCA, an American Christian organization supplying materials for the worship of enemy soldiers. By the summer of 1944, labor shortages led Japanese POWs to work on farms across the Midwest. Unlike the slave labor Japanese forces extracted from Allied POWs, American authorities paid the Japanese prisoners the same wage as German and Italian prisoners. Working on American farms, they witnessed agricultural technology and sheer output that defied Japanese comprehension. Single farms in Wisconsin produced more food than entire Japanese prefectures. The relationships with American farmers evolved from suspicion to cordiality, with some farmers sharing lunch and even inviting prisoners for dinner, despite regulations against fraternization.
Educational programs further eroded their worldview. Japanese prisoners could study English, American history, mathematics, and science. The camp library, stocked with books in Japanese, became a refuge for soldiers starved of intellectual stimulation and freedom of thought. The availability of American newspapers, even with wartime censorship, provided a window into democratic society that contradicted years of totalitarian propaganda. Christmas, 1944, created a profound psychological crisis. American church groups and individual families sent Christmas packages to the camp, including gifts for the Japanese prisoners who didn't even celebrate the holiday. Each man received a package containing candy, cigarettes, and toiletries, often accompanied by cards written by children expressing hope for peace. The Christmas dinner was an unbelievable feast. Turkey, ham, and pies. Quantities of food Japan hadn't seen in years. Those who attended the chapel service heard chaplains praying for peace and for the safe return of all soldiers, including their enemies. This enemy mourning for enemy dead shattered the final remnants of propaganda about American barbarism. As the war ended, the psychological impact intensified. The atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, reported immediately in uncensored American newspapers, instilled both horror at the destruction and awe at the technological superiority. Yet the American reaction, sobering reflection, not jubilant celebration, was the final moral shock. When Emperor Hirohito's surrender broadcast reached Camp McCoy, the prisoners who had been conditioned to fight to the last man faced an existential crisis. The American response was not gloating, but intensified concern for the prisoners' welfare. Colonel Rogers personally assured them, "The war is over. You will go home when transportation is arranged. Until then, you remain under our protection. Any guard who mistreats you will be court-martialed. You came here as enemies. You will leave as future friends." The repatriation brought an unexpected fear. Many prisoners, transformed by their experience and educated in different ways of thinking, feared returning to a destroyed nation that might reject them as contaminated. The camp administration responded by instituting repatriation preparation programs, providing vocational training in skills needed for reconstruction, construction, electrical work, and modern agriculture. The military, having defeated Japan, was now training its former enemies to rebuild it. Japanese POWs received surplus clothing and funds for their journey home, money provided by the nation that had defeated them. Kazuo Sakamaki, the first POW, exemplified this transformation. After returning to Japan, he joined the Toyota Motor Corporation, using his English and his understanding of American business practices to help build Japan's automotive export industry, eventually becoming president of Toyota's Brazilian subsidiary. Many returned POWs became indispensable interpreters, cultural bridges, and advisors during the American occupation. Their English skills, lack of militant hostility, and exposure to democratic principles made them unexpected agents of Japan's democratization and modernization. They introduced American farming techniques, business models, and administrative methods, becoming crucial contributors to Japan's post-war economic miracle. The experience created a moral victory for the United States. Soldiers taught that mercy was weakness, discovered that American strength came, in part, from moral confidence, the ability to treat enemies humanely without fearing it would undermine victory. Cruelty would have confirmed propaganda. Kindness destroyed it entirely. The contrast with the Japanese treatment of Allied POWs created personal anguish, leading many former POWs to advocate for democratic and human rights reforms in the new Japan. Their story, documented in archives and personal testimonies, is a testament to the transformative power of unexpected grace. The American guards who protected suicidal prisoners, the doctors who healed enemy wounded, the farmers who shared lunch with prisoner workers, these ordinary Americans, demonstrating extraordinary decency, achieved what military victory alone could not: the genuine transformation of hearts and minds, proving that kindness can conquer where cruelty fails. Their legacy is the strong alliance that continues today, built on human connection that transcended wartime hatred.